Since arriving on Haida Gwaii, I've been settling into a slower pace of life. Partly because that's the way of life here on this remote island in the Northeast Pacific, but largely because I needed to slow down drastically in order to allow my body to properly heal from being sick. It's rare that I pick up communicable diseases, and while I can't be sure where I got this one, it hit me hard at a time when I couldn't slow down as much as I needed to. I had a ferry to catch, a sailing which I had booked months in advance on a route that only runs a couple trips per week this time of year. I've often said that one of the great things about this lifestyle is being able to give myself the time I need for my health. But that's really only the reality when I'm living moment to moment, when I have nothing booked and no plans with other people. This wasn't one of those times. On my way to the coast, I did slow down as much as my schedule would allow, taking quiet mornings to savor the beautiful region I was traveling through. I lingered in camp until early afternoon when I felt my strongest before continuing closer to my destination. After months of planning and weeks of travel, I had finally arrived and didn't plan to drive anywhere again for several days. It felt relaxing knowing that even when I did drive again, there really wasn't very far I could possibly go. I was home, in a way I wasn't on the way here. It's hard to explain, as my van truck is always my home, but I just feel less at home passing through a place than when I'm truly being there. Here is a place I plan to be for a while, poking around in the nooks and crannies, walking abandoned roads, and discovering the unique relationship with myself that can only exist in a place like this. A place where there really isn't much else to do but simply be. The air here is fresh, a mix of wet forest and crisp ocean breeze. The further the tide goes out, the stronger the salty sea smell becomes, and I love it. The weather is always changing, clouds rolling around, rain one moment, sun the next. The waters at this location are calm and protected. The tide comes in quietly and then it goes out again, way out. I felt invited to rest and let my mind wander, watching the beach grow and shrink with the passage of time, and listening to the birds seemingly celebrating the arrival of spring. I wandered around on foot, curious about what lies around the next corner, torn between looking out at a sea of tiny islands with larger ones in the distance that reach up into the alpine, or peering into the bright and open forest beyond the tide line. With no cell phone service, I felt incredibly present and enthralled by every little detail. The plants, animals, and even the weathered shapes and textures of the rocks, noting the lithology and feeling amused by interesting formations. One evening, I walked down the beach for a moment, only to get carried away by my curiosity and found myself wandering up into the forest, where my smile grew with the intensity of green before realizing I had been gone for longer than expected, and hustled down the coast back to camp, where I enjoyed a night by the fire with Flossie and Frank. It felt really good to enjoy life with an empty schedule and no self-imposed expectations for productivity. During these days, I was more interested in monitoring the progress towards berry season than talking to the camera. I guess I needed time for myself to separate my passion for capturing the world around me with my job as a video creator. Instead of thinking of edits and potential storylines, I shot photos and videos for the love of it because that's just who I am and what I do, whether or not any of my footage is ever seen by an audience. I guess I needed the time to heal a little more than just my body, and after passing a few quiet days here, I felt properly grounded and like myself again, just in time to begin our local explorations, starting with a trek through the forest and out to the open coast. So what are we going to go see?
Shipwreck!
This is the Pesuta, although it's nowadays known as the misspelled Pesuta with an S rather than a Z. The Pesuta was built as a wood-hauled steam freighter in Raymond, Washington, as part of the U.S. Shipping Board's World War I emergency program. I'm not exactly sure what year it was built in, but in 1919 it was considered excess and slated for liquidation, eventually finding its way to Vancouver in 1927, where it was retrofitted for use as a lumber carrier capable of carrying a mind-boggling 800,000 feet of logs. The Pesuta's second life as a barge didn't last long, as the seas on December 11th, 1928 were exceptionally treacherous here on Hecate Strait. Gale winds battered the struggling tug as it towed the heavily laden carrier past the mouth of the Tolel River when suddenly the Pesuta broke free of its tow line, running aground in deep sand. Hull recovery efforts were a failure, and local salvage operations stripped what they could before leaving the remnants of this massive vessel high on the beach. And massive vessel it was. The ship was 264 feet long, and its original construction contained 1.8 million board feet of lumber, 20,000 tree nails, 10,000 pounds of clinch rings, 200 tons of round iron, 30 tons of strapping, 400 bales of oakum, and 600 gallons of paint. Add to that the weight of 800,000 feet of logs, and it's no wonder the tow line snapped in the nasty sea state and weather all those years ago. This ship has now seen nearly 100 years of rugged coastal weather, leaving only this now iconic bow jutting out of the sand. But if you visit the Haida Heritage Museum with a curious mind, you can find photos of the shipwreck dating back to 1930. If you want to see this fascinating site in person, expect to walk a couple hours each way, plan to go at low tide, as well as bring a snack and fresh water so you can hang around for a while, marveling at the construction techniques and strange beauty of this weathered piece of history. Yum. Okay, so what I've done is I dressed all the toppings so they don't get lost below the spinach. Yeah. And because I didn't know if it would all fit. So it's like a deconstructed salad.
Okay.
So you have spinach. I think this is island grown.
Ooh.
And then we have sweet peas, yellow bell pepper, red pointy pepper, beluga lentils, all seasoned, and then your tofu.
Nice. And it's a chili tofu. Oh, yeah.
Franklin, if you come over here, I made you din-dins. You don't have to go lay in the corner.
You dinner? Dinner time. Cheers.
Cheers. I feel like I enjoyed the shipwreck more this time. And maybe because last time it was like raining and the other part of it was like under the ocean and I was like on another mission and like had a big heavy backpack. Mm-hmm. But I think also just like getting older, you become more interested in old things.
Moving slower. And then the sun came out. And that like to me, when we got there and it like turned from gray and hectically windy to like
Blue sky.
And then I just got to be like, and then just thinking about how old it is and how many people have seen it and where the wood come from and how long it took to make it. I don't know. I just sat there and pondered for like...
You actually sat down.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah. You were doing all the photography and I was just pondering, taking in the full moon vibes.
Before I go off on a few adventures, I want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, who is Drink Element. Element is a super tasty electrolyte drink mix with a science-backed blend of essential electrolytes and none of that other BS you absolutely don't need in an electrolyte drink mix. It is important to replenish electrolytes lost due to sweat because electrolytes play a vital role in tons of different functions within the body. Personally, I notice I feel much better and have way less headaches when I stay properly hydrated with enough water and quality water that contains the electrolytes I lose when I sweat. If you want to give Element a try, go to drinklmnt.com/tidelinetoalpine. And with the purchase of any drink mix, you're also going to get this sample pack, which includes 8 of their flavors, so you can see which one you'd like to try next or share with a friend. You can buy Element as a single box that comes with 30 of these little sachets, or you can get the Insider Bundle, which is you buy 3 of the boxes, you get the 4th for free, along with the sample pack. Not only is the Insider Bundle a great deal, but by becoming an Element Insider, you have exclusive access to their newest product, which is Element Sparkling. Element Sparkling contains the same science-backed blend as their drink mixes and comes in grapefruit salt, citrus salt, watermelon salt, and exclusive to the Sparkling, the black cherry lime. As of right now, Element Sparkling is only available for those who have purchased an Insider Bundle in the last 9 months. So whether or not you've purchased Element before, if you go to drinklmnt.com/tidelinetoalpine and purchase any of their drink mixes, you're going to get the sample pack included. It really does help support the channel and tastes amazing. So with that said, let's get back to my adventures. It's been a work day here so far. There's actually no phone service here, but Flossie has their Starlink up. We're in adjacent sites, so I do get a signal here. And I got a text from Flossie sent over Wi-Fi asking if I had a spare fuse, which is a pretty vague question, but after a while we pinned it down and I do have a fuse that will be appropriate for their needs, which isn't a surprise because I have so many odds and ends and knickknacks in this van. I really need to consolidate them and organize them and kind of take inventory, but I do have stuff to pretty much fix or rig up most common things that could go wrong in the van, or if I just have like a little enhancement project I want to do, I can probably just do that without having to go to a store, which is a pretty neat feeling. But yeah, it does mean my van is like really full all the time because I just like kind of like hoard on to like so many extra little things that could be useful, because it just brings me like a sense of security and I like being prepared. But I'm definitely like a tool shed having kind of person. And instead, I live in a van, but I make it work. Fuse delivery at your window.
Hi, I'm coming outside. Why, thank you. Now I can make my fan go and not gas myself with chili fumes.
Were you coming to see me, Frank? Let's go back. We're going to go to our site. Come on. Come on, bud. Come on. Come on, Frankie. Oh, good boy. Come lay in the moss, bud. Nice in our site. Yeah, buddy. All right, the workday is done, and we have ended up deciding to go for a bunch of micro adventures in the forest after a big day on our feet yesterday. And it was quite nice at camp, so it was hard not to go to the beach and enjoy the sun. And then on the way here, it was just absolutely pouring rain. But as we got to the trailhead parking, it stopped. So it is dry and lush and green, and we're going to go see, first off, what's called Haida Canoe. And so the Haida were really famous for their seafaring abilities. and their ability to navigate the waters of the Northeast Pacific in dugout canoes. So they would fall massive cedars and then dig them out, and these canoes that would carry dozens of men or entire families and all their belongings and everything would be dug out of a single trunk of wood and somehow moved to water. And so the one we're going to go see was started to be created, and then for some reason they abandoned it, and so it's still here in the forest. Look at the size of this stump. This is all stump. That's huge. Wow. You look so tiny down there.
Well, it's so big. Like, you could sit 6 to 8 to 10 people to go around this whole tree.
This is like a queen-size bed.
Yeah, like this is me just around like one tiny piece. And you would need like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 more people to get around this whole
Maybe
tree.
even more, yeah.
Yeah, it's huge.
Wow. For our next micro adventure, we enjoyed a stroll through a beautiful and sacred pocket of old-growth forest where a grandmother cedar still stands along with other awe-inspiring large trees. Across this river, the Yukon, largest in the archipelago, is where the golden spruce once stood. If you haven't read the book, The Golden Spruce by John Vaillant, I highly recommend it. It was gifted to me by a fellow traveler during my first trip to the islands back in 2016, and I've enjoyed reading it a few times since. It tells the tale of a forest protester who cut down the famous and culturally significant golden spruce. The book also shines a light on the unfortunate reality that the beautiful province of British Columbia, where I was born and have lived my entire life, actually functions as a resource colony, and how the once seemingly endless forests of BC have been whittled away over the past 2 centuries to a skeleton of their previous glory, despite cries from public opposition to stop the destructive practices of clear-cutting and mass export of raw logs. The forest holds far greater value than just being a resource for economic gain, and our species, along with countless other species, depend on intact forest ecosystems for survival. I'm not opposed to logging per se, and love working with wood, but our current practices are neither sustainable nor what is ultimately best for the people and land of Canada. It's a touchy subject, but I believe there is a better way forward that can create more jobs for Canadian families while harvesting lumber in a manner that doesn't destroy the forests. If only we could do something about the greedy politicians and massive corporations that control our collective forests. I would love to hear what you have to say about this controversial subject in the comments below. It's a little after 8 p.m. now. I'm making my way down to the beach for dinner. I've made a quick salad in this pot here with the lentils I had left. So it's lentils, spinach, pointy pepper, a mango that was a little beyond ripe, so I thought this would be a good way to use it, and just a simple dressing with grapeseed oil, apple cider vinegar, garlic powder, coriander, and then I put a bit of balsamic reduction drizzle on top with some salt flakes. So there's a table down here. Gonna have a picnic dinner and enjoy the sunset while it's not windy out. Very nice time to be at the beach because these long open beaches can get really windy. All right, well, I've waited long enough and I'm really hungry, so I'm gonna eat. It's already been a week since we got here. We've been having a really nice time, and for the most part, the weather's been pretty good. Today is exceptionally nice with it being sunny and not windy, as it can get quite windy here. So I've been hanging outside all morning, working, listening to the birds, and just being with Frank, who loves to be out in the sun, but he does prefer to be with me, which means for him to have the best time outside. Where are all these flies coming from? Then I need to be outside with him. So it's a win-win. Anyways, I've got a pile of fiddleheads here that I picked a couple days ago on a walk with Flossie. Oh, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by removing, just rubbing off the brown hairs that are on them, as they can be like a little bit more bitter, and I want this to be the tastiest possible. So I'm going to go through, do that for all of these. And then what I'm going to do is quickly blanch them in some boiling water. And what that does is it'll also help make them a bit less bitter, but it helps to remove or minimize a compound within the fiddleheads that can be toxic if you eat too much of them. I only eat them seasonally and not very much of them, so I'm not really worried about it, but in my experience, it does make them really tasty. So I'll blanch them and then I'll fry them. And then once they're fried, I'll just top them with some flake salt that I cannot get enough of. It is so good, and Flossie is a big fan as well. Although I need to find a better container for it than this box, because it's like in a bag in the box and it's spilling everywhere. I'm just getting salt all over the place. But so good. So yeah, just gonna enjoy the birds and working on this. So I did consider cooking them with something else or in something, and then I just decided that because it's something I only eat usually once or twice a year, this is probably the last time I'm going to eat them this year, that I would just do them plain with salt. Thank you for meeting me for this gathering of the fiddlehead and the unfurling of spring foraged delights.
Fantastic.
You may proceed.
These look amazing.
It's just salt.
Oh yeah, they're good.
How would you describe the flavor?
A cross between kale and asparagus.
Sure, that works. This has been a really nice place to spend the past couple days, but I'm all packed up and about to hit the road north, pop into town for a couple groceries. I don't really need anything. I just feel like going to the grocery store to see what I want, because I like going to the grocery store. And then I'm going to head out to the North Coast. Flossie will meet me there, and we'll see what comes next for our adventure. So if you'd like to make sure you catch that, subscribe down below, or make sure you're subscribed, because sometimes YouTube just unsubscribes people. I've had a bunch of comments about that. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I got a cute clip of Frank to send you off on your way, and we'll see you in the next one.